Well, Nancy promised us that she would share the secret to making a checkerboard cake, and we are lined up ready to take notes. Where do we start?
Well, we start with, you have your 9-inch round pan, and then you have an insert that you put into the pan, and it just rests in there. And then normally with a checkerboard cake, we've taken it a step further today. Normally with a checkerboard cake, you'd make 3 layers, and you'd have chocolate, yellow, chocolate. And then on another layer, you'd have vanilla or yellow, chocolate, yellow. And then on the 3rd layer, you'd go back to your original pattern like that. But we're going to mix it up, and we're going to do all sorts of colors. We're doing 3 different colors today. So I've got my cake mix batter here.
And this is just a tint. Does this have a flavor to it, or it's just coloring?
No, this is just coloring. I like to use paste color because then it doesn't thin down your batter so that you don't lose the texture with that. So I just put it in there. You can see it beginning to take the color. You can put as much color as you want. I say put a little bit in initially.
Do you think pastels are more edible than the deep colors when it comes to cake batter?
Yeah, I remember as a child, my parents had some French crystal glasses, and I wanted to make blue pudding. And my father, we were doing it for my mother, my father goes, "Oh, honey, I think that'd be so lovely." Dear old dad. And now I look back and I'm thinking, oh my God, and they ate it too.
Yeah. Well, they loved you. It's amazing what parents will do. Yeah.
Now we put the yellow in there, and you can intensify your yellow cake, or you can just use plain yellow cake. And then we're just going to pour some in the center.
I know this is a silly question, but after you pour, do you bake it with this plastic
No,
in
you
the
pull
middle?
it out.
You lift that out, and they don't seep together or anything like that?
You can see a little bit of seepage underneath the yellow there, but you really don't have to be worried about it because it's not going to make any difference where you're actually going to see it. And then with this one, now with this, there's a little bit of a secret in that you want it to kind of flow around, so you have to go around.
So you really need 2 to 3 of these pans to get the job done.
Yes.
Or you'd have to bake them all separately, right?
Yes, you need to do 3.
Okay.
And you need to fill your pan fairly full because you're going to want to cut off the crown that bakes. So about 2/3 full.
Okay, so
and you'll need about
half.
3 cake mixes for this one. It's a very tall cake, but it makes a great impression. I'm not holding my spatula right. You can see I'm dribbling in the middle, but you know that's okay. It's going to bake up as a crown, and we're going to slice it off.
And so that's it. So you've tinted it, you've poured it. Did you have to grease your pan or anything like that?
I sprayed it a little bit, but it's a nonstick pan.
And it releases,
but I just spray everything. And then for filling your other ones, you just do kind of the opposite. And then here we have some that have baked, and I've already taken the crown off this one. And you can see we have the color combination here, a different one here, and a different one here, so that when we actually cut the cake, you'll see
When you slice into it, you'll have 3 different colors, and this would be a 3-layer cake that you would do, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, with this one, this has come out of the oven, and you could use a cake slicer if you wanted to, or cake leveler, or I just like to go ahead and cut it and kind of eyeball it with a serrated knife. And what you're doing there is you're just cutting a straight line across.
You call it crowning it?
Yes, you're cutting off the crown.
And this is just...
This is edible for us.
Okay, that sounds good. I'm sure we have a camera person who might eat that.
Yeah, really. Now, I've got some icing in a disposable bag with a coupler on it, and I'm going to put what's called a dam around it. And the reason I put a dam around it and I put a little bit inside is when I lay the other layer on top, then it'll spread, it'll even out the edges and move it out, so you don't have to try to tuck icing in after you've done it. Oops.
Okay.
And
you need to let this cool before you start icing and everything.
You know what? I forgot. Here, I forgot my icing's over here. Then we're going to put some icing in the middle. Now you could use white in here if you wanted to, or you could, follow your color scheme and do yellow.
Now, is this just to attach it, or this is so when you slice it,
when you slice it, you have icing in between.
Okay.
And you just take your spatula and kind of smooth it out here to the edges. And then we're going to put the one cake on top of the other cake. And you can put as much as you want in between or as little as you want in between. Then you're going to put your...
And what other flavors would you do? You said chocolate and yellow. Would you do like a raspberry and chocolate?
You could do anything you wanted. Whatever you think you're going to want, to end up as a checkerboard. Now,
to ice
let me
the
move this
outside
over
of it
here. Yeah, and what we'll do is we'll take the icing.
Okay.
And when you ice a cake, you want to make sure you get a whole lot on your side, because you can always pull it off.
And this is just buttercream icing you're using, right? And you can make this, or you can buy this pre-made, right? And either
you want to make sure it's a thin consistency, because if it's not a thin consistency, it's going to pull your cake. Okay. So you can see here I'm putting it on the side, and then I'm just kind of pulling it off.
And if it's not the right consistency, do you thin it with like a corn syrup or something like that?
Corn syrup is good because it gives elasticity. You can also thin it with milk. And you can
Okay.
see there, I won't ice too much more, but you can see there it's fairly thin. Now one thing you can do after you let your buttercream kind of harden a little bit, we call it crust.
Okay.
It'll be just a little bit dry to the touch. You can take your parchment paper and you see how it angles around, and then you can put this to the side with a spatula. It's still wet, so it'd stick, and it'd pull it out, and we have little pokies coming out.
Okay,
But
so it
when
smooths
it's
it.
dried a little bit, it'll smooth it. The other thing you can do to smooth your icing is to dip your spatula into hot water and wipe it off, and then come around your cake.
And it just gives you that glass look, like a finished look, almost like a fondant look in some ways.
Now, you realize that I started icing this, but I would have, if we were going to do the whole layer, but that takes so much time, I would have put that other third layer on top and then started icing it. But I just wanted to show
So
you
you
the
would
icing.
put the same dam, the same icing in the middle, and then the third
and
layer
then started
on.
icing. But I just wanted to give
Polish
you
it
some
off.
icing tips there.
Okay.
Now, this is the 3 layers that we have, and we're going to finish it off, and we're just doing a very simple bead border. Now,
And
this
what
is a tip number 8. This is
Okay.
buttercream icing, and you just hold it at a 45-degree angle, let it build up, and bring it forward, or bring it towards you.
Now, did you tint this icing, or did you buy it? Would you have bought it this color
tinted it with the same icing color.
as that you did with the batter? Okay.
So you just finish it off, and you can just kind of like,
And you
put
did
that
the
at
same
back.
thing with the pink
Same thing
around
at
the
the top with the
top.
pink on the
Okay.
top. But now let me cut it. And when you cut this, you want to make sure you have a serrated knife. And I'm going to cut a big piece so you can actually, see the center.
Get the
and
checkerboard effect.
How the checkerboard effect
And the
actually
checkerboard
works.
is truly, it's almost like a centerpiece. When you put it on a table for desserts, I'm going to let people see this, the finished product. Can you all see that? Isn't that gorgeous? So now you have the lavender, yellow, pink, lavender. Now you can see how you went and you did the 3 different cakes
Yeah.
and how it all comes together. That is gorgeous.
Here's one other little trick. When
Okay.
you cut first time with your knife, wipe it off, and then cut a second one, and you won't have as much icing stick there. So
So
it'll
you
look
won't pick
really
this
neat.
up. Well, you know, we can't have this cake and not taste it to make sure
Okay.
it tastes as
Are you
good
going
as
to
it
eat that
looks.
whole piece?
No, because then you all would oink like little pigs. But I am going to taste one little bite here.
But this is really good. You could flavor it if you wanted to. I mean, the real impact is in the coloring of the batter, but you could do it with different flavors. Maybe do some chocolate and a raspberry.
I take my
or-
word back. I might eat this whole thing, okay? I need a big glass of milk.